Good morning, everyone. My name is Stuart Friedman. I'm a senior lead technologist and AI ethicist at Booz Allen, working on the responsible AI team. And with me is Eric from Credo.
Hi, folks. Eric Aldana. I'm a product manager at Credo AI. We're a company that builds software to help AI governance teams manage their AI systems at scale. And Stuart's going to talk about how we do that together with Booz Allen right now.
Yeah, great. So I want to just start with setting some context, and then the majority of this time is actually going to be a demo of the Credo AI platform. So if you'll bear with me as I sort of set some of the context and hope that everything works here. So at Booz Allen, we think of responsible AI as being a formula balancing across three different domains of consideration and expertise. Obviously, there's the ethical considerations. That's the origins of responsible AI, if you will. But what we see in practice is that just dealing with the ethical considerations is not sufficient. You actually need the governance. You need to understand what assets you have, what use cases you have, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously the safety, everything from cybersecurity and vulnerabilities of that nature, et cetera. And when you put these three domains together and achieve a holistic solution, that's what gets you to responsible AI. And obviously this morning we're talking primarily about the governance piece. And in particular, there is a governance imperative. How many of you are working at organizations that have more than 20 AI use cases that are sort of active across the organization in some way, shape, or form? Okay, that's what I figured. That's already a small number. If you think about where things are going to be a year from now, 18 months from now, the volume of what there is out there in the AI milieu means that you need to govern at scale. And in order to achieve that, and I do think it's imperative, there are kind of four considerations to take into account. One is all the regulatory compliance needs and requirements. And this is a big deal, certainly at the government agency level, where there's the executive order and the OMB memo. But even at other organizations, you have laws, and all the states in the US are starting to create their own legislation, as well as internal policies. And one of the challenges of governing at scale is actually understanding and knowing what policies and requirements are relevant to you and your use case, and keeping track of all of that. So that's one key element that you have to get right to adopt governance at scale. Another element is risk management, and this of course includes the traditional elements of risk management, from financial risk and reputational risk and those kinds of things. I really like the prior presenter, the FOMO as opposed to FOMO. That's what we're talking about there. But there are a bunch of new considerations in the risk management space introduced by AI. Everything around some of the ethical considerations: fairness, bias, transparency, explainability, et cetera. So you have to have a system to do that. You also, in order to get to AI governance at scale, you have to have the right tooling and technologies. And this is everything from the literal tooling and technology that checks things. So what metrics are you measuring your models by? What tools are you using to do those measurements? But it also extends to the entire organizational level. What system do you have to keep track of all the information and to manage all the workflows associated with the exercise? And really that's where Booz Allen's partnership with Credo AI comes in, and part of the big solution that Credo AI offers. And lastly is the process implementation, right? None of it works if you haven't operationalized it across your teams, so that specific people with specific responsibilities know what they need to do, they have the information on hand to do it, defining those processes, defining those work groups. And you heard the prior presenter talk about like what teams are involved. Imagine now defining all the processes that those teams need to work through. And so when you add all this up, it turns out to be a pretty significant information management exercise. And again, we think there's an imperative to achieve that at scale, and we think that we can help companies and organizations and agencies achieve it. And so won't dwell on the details of Booz Allen, but I am proud to work there. And it's the #1 provider of AI services to the federal government. We have an incredible team. There's been a tremendous amount going on the talent side of things with over 2,200 AI practitioners. We have a lot of partnerships, and we've invested in understanding some of the emerging providers to ensure that we're at the cutting edge in conjunction with our partners. And again, that's where Credo AI partnership fits in. And then, of course, all the offerings that we have from our services and our products and things like that. So Booz Allen is well positioned to help with this challenge. And in our partnership with Credo AI, we think we found a partner that really has a platform that is fit to purpose. How do you get to AI governance at scale? I talked about the 4 critical elements, and Credo AI addresses these. And again, you're going to see a demo of all of this, but just to hit the highlights: centralized management of all of this information, enabling policy-driven governance. This is a real challenge in the industry. Again, understanding what policies are relevant, what information do I need to know about those policies, how can I address and demonstrate compliance and adherence with those policies. And Credo AI has a solution for that embedded in their platform called Policy Packs. Additionally, and important to many agencies and many companies, is in addition to the external requirements, there are a lot of internal policies that need to be attended to. And Credo AI can support that. And then obviously maintaining one version of the truth, knowing the information about not only your use cases, but about the governance of those use cases, and being able to do all the dynamic reporting that are associated with that, et cetera. So it's a really solid fit-for-purpose solution. And in our partnership, we have co-developed together something that we refer to as the AI Governance Jumpstart by Credo AI and Booz Allen. And we have 2 versions of this offering, one that focuses on the front part of the process, gathering all the use cases, documenting the inventory of what's out there, and collecting the information that's required for effective governance. In and of itself, this is a pretty significant effort, especially as in many of your organizations, I would wager that there is a lot of use of AI that is under the radar. And so creating a culture around this, having a strategy to approach collecting all that information, in and of itself is a significant effort. And for those of you at government agencies, there is a pressing deadline to get this stuff done. So we've developed an offering that helps companies and organizations get to there quickly. The other version is what we call the limited use case version. And the idea here is that there are probably a handful of use cases that matter most, that you've got to get governed well, that you already know there may be some risk or some worry about. And so instead of having to go all the way in, you get a chance to dip your toe and get governance for a handful of use cases, while also beginning to learn and understand what's required to get the end-to-end governance of those use cases so that you can build it at scale. And as we jump into the demo, you'll see this overarching process. I refer to the front part of the process as the intake and the inventory, and the second part of the process as the actual governance, which is actually understanding what are the compliance requirements that we're measuring against, what are the risks that we're worried about, what are the mitigations for all of these things, collecting that info, and then being able to report effectively on it. So that's the context. What I'll do now is turn it over to Eric and actually get you into the Credo AI platform. All right, so I'm just going to unplug this and hand it over.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Stuart. I feel like we're tempting fate by switching laptops. We like to joke that AV is harder than AI sometimes. Let's see how this goes. All right, there we go. Made it work. Now I'll zoom in just a little so it's a little bit easier to see. Hi everyone, thank you Stuart again for that introduction. My name is Eric Aldana, I'm here with Credo AI. Before we get started, really just with the demo, quickly show of hands, how many folks are here representing the AI governance function of your organization, or does your organization have an AI governance function? Okay, great. Yeah, as we were kind of, the speaker before us, they were mentioning this kind of new role that is emerging in a lot of companies and organizations and agencies, this AI governance lead. So who is the person that's in charge of managing your AI inventory? What are the different use cases being used? What are the compliance and risk requirements that we need to be monitoring? So as I go through this platform, I want you to think about, what does this process look like right now? Say if you were using 20 use cases or 100 use cases or 1,000 use cases down the road, and how are we tracking all of this important information that we need to keep? So the 4 things that Stuart mentioned, first off, our AI registry, where are we keeping track of all of our different use cases? The second question, what are the different compliance requirements that are associated with those use cases? as compliance requirements change, as new laws are passed, as internal processes are developed, how do we make sure that all of those requirements are actually kept track of? Third, what are the different risk scenarios? What are the different controls that we can use to mitigate those risks? And then finally, how do we actually report on this, whether it's in our company internally to stakeholders you need to know, or as part of reporting to the public, to regulators, that sort of thing. So the first thing I'm going to go into is our AI registry in the Credo AI platform. So what you see here, this is a software tool. It's can be both deployed in the cloud as well as on-prem. But this first component is our AI use case registry. So this is where you're able to see all of the different use cases that are associated with your organization. One thing I want to call out is our use of the word use case. What exactly does this mean? We know about things like model risk management or vendor management. These are important things to keep track of as well. And we have different components for that where you can register different models. But how those models are used, for example, or how you're using a particular vendor's application is also really important for governance. Using a large language model like GPT-4, for example, is going to need to be governed very differently if you're using it for customer service versus making medical diagnoses, for example. So we always keep track of things at that use case level. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually click into one of these use cases. So this is an HR decision-making system. So here we can see some information about this use case that has been input by people at our organization. It could be input by vendors as part of an intake process. And here we're going to be keeping track of a number of important pieces of information. Who is involved with it? What is the risk category that has been assigned to it based off of that intake process? The Credo AI platform takes metadata about your use cases that you're providing as part of a questionnaire, and using that information to make recommendations about things like what risk category might it be associated with according to a framework like the OMB guidance, like the EU AI Act. And in addition to that, it's also going to recommend what are the different risks, and as well as what are the different compliance requirements that might be associated with that use case. So here you can see we have a number of different compliance requirements that have been added as policy packs, as Stuart mentioned. Policy packs on the Credo AI platform are the sets of controls or requirements that are needed to make sure that you're compliant with a given law or policy. So if I click into here, you can see here are the different controls that have been added as a component of compliance with the OMB guidelines. And in addition, anytime that policies are updated, the Credo AI platform is going to take that into account, and you'll actually have the opportunity to see, hey, there's a new version that's available. Let's go ahead and upgrade to that newest version so you can keep track of those requirements automatically. You don't have to continuously go back and manage them yourself. Quickly, I'll show as well what our risk assessment and risk management system looks like. So here in the Credo AI platform, we have a library of different AI-specific risks. These are AI risks for generative AI systems, for more traditional machine learning systems, things like making sure that we're controlling for things like hallucinations, if you're using a text-generating tool, for example, as well as things like tracking for unwanted bias, making sure that the training data that's been used is representative and not resulting in any potential issues regarding discriminating against unfair groups, as well as things like making sure that your third-party AI systems are being handled properly. You have the right documentation from those different organizations. So you can track your risks, as well as what are the different controls you want to use to mitigate those particular risks. And the Credo AI platform, again, has a library of different risks and controls that can be used as a starting place, in addition to giving you the ability to add your own controls, your own policy packs. So finally, I just want to show, in the time we have left, what does that overarching view look like of your compliance or risk posture of your AI systems at your organization. So if you want to be able to just get a quick look at how many of my use cases are actually going to be in one of those high risk categories. Of the different types of risks that are showing up, what are we seeing the most? So you can see here, privacy is coming up as a risk. Maybe that means we need to invest more resources in the privacy department. And then In addition to that, we can see kind of how are our use cases matching against different compliance requirements. We can see here there's a lot of work that needs to be done for this organization. And then finally, your workflow. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, you are empowering your organizations to use AI. No one wants that governance team to be kind of the bottleneck, right? You want to be the heroes at your company or your agency to allow the use of AI systems. So we have workflow tracking tools to show, how much time is actually being spent in the review process and where kind of those different resources are being used. So yeah, that's the Credo AI platform in a nutshell. As Stuart mentioned, we also have different offerings based off where you are sort of in your AI governance maturity. If you're really just kind of focused on managing that inventory to start, not necessarily going deep on adding policy packs or controls, that's an option. But yeah, hopefully we gave you a good sense of what's possible out there for AI governance, and happy to answer questions or meet with you all kind of out and about.
Yeah, and if I could just close with two thoughts. One, I personally believe, and I think Booz Allen's philosophy is that AI governance is not just the know, not just the police. It's actually a critical element that enables and empowers acceleration, innovation, etc. So adopting excellence in governance, I think, is an unlocking capability. And then, yeah, I know we're running low on time in this room, in this space, but Booz Allen has a booth in the center aisle of the expo. We're booth number 470. And would be happy to take any questions and have conversations. And we'd both love to hear what you guys are up to in your organizations, what challenges you're facing. It's nascent for everyone, and we're trying to solve it as a community. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you at booth 470.
Thanks, folks.
All right.